Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm going to be sharing to you a build that I've been using in the Bat Chat 15558 that I think makes this vehicle pretty darn scary. So, this is the auto-loading French self-propelled gun, and I don't know what's wrong with me. I played an artillery live on YouTube, I think last week, the M5355. I had a redonkulous game in that, and spoilers, I was kind of using the same build that I'm using in the Bat Chat 15558, minus a couple of changes. And now, I'm going to show you a highlight of this vehicle and how scary this thing can be once you've got it set up correctly. Well, when I say correctly, let me clarify, I'm not the best of artillery players, and if you are, definitely let me know what you think about this freaky build in the comments down below, or if you've been using it for ages and how it's been working out for you, and how a muppet like me, a terrible artillery scrublord, is just seeing how crazy this thing can be. So artillery, this one, the Bat Chat 15558, the thing that balances this tank and artillery is they're not meant to make pinpoint reactions to enemy vehicles and be able to turn their turret quickly across the map and quickly deliver shells. Artillery is meant to aim for many seconds, and so you have a chance to be able to disappear, or you have a chance to be able to move and avoid taking that hit. However, when you stack on the Bat Chat 15558 a load of things that reduce the dispersion, what you can see now is that you can literally turn hundreds of meters to different targets, and you can be fully aimed in between your intra-clip reload, which is just absolutely wild. When you combine this with also abilities that increase the turret traverse, now you can change from one part of the map to another part of the map with the increased turret traverse that you'll have, and this thing can be absolutely wild. I just realized to myself there's also one other thing if you were ultra sweaty in this vehicle that you could do. And that would be that you could replace maybe the med kit or the repair kit with a premium fuel consumable, which also further increases the turret traverse dispersion of this tank. But that would cost you an extra 10,000 credits. But you know what? If you're making the ultra sweaty build, what is 10,000 credits for a tier 10 self-propelled gun player? So just what exactly is this build? So the gun lane drive, that's just normal. That's doing like 11.5% reduced aim time. I would use vents on this vehicle if I could, but the Bat Chat 15558 can't. The real powerful part of this is going to be this bond rotation device. This is something that has only gone into the game in the last year, and on this vehicle, it's just outrageous. It means that you get 17.5% reduced dispersion, and also 17.5% increased turret traverse. So you've got less bloom when you move, and you can quickly re-engage targets at different angles. And then this stacks with the experimental turbo that you see here on the third slot of the equipment that I'm showing. This experimental turbo is currently at level 2, so it reduces dispersion by 5% when moving and turning the turret, and increases the turret traverse speed by 5%. And so you can do things like this. The Bat Chat 15558 is meant to have like the worst turret traverse in the game, and it just doesn't. It doesn't with a build like this. And so you can quickly re-engage targets all the way across the map. And you can see as I'm just waving it around now, the reticle doesn't really change because of this reduced dispersion. So you can quickly re-engage targets. And that is just absolutely king in artillery. It's meant to be kind of like the balancing factor of this vehicle. And these vehicles as a class is that the reticle does bloom out. And so by combining these modules with another thing that I'm going to highlight here, is just absolutely outrageous. So those two modules that you see, they're giving 22.5% extra turret traverse. You could get an extra 10% if you were to use the fuel, which I'm not using here, so this build would be even more wild like that. But on top of that, it stacks with Snapshot. Snapshot is an ability that you need to have on one of your gunners, not both of your gunners, at least for now, that reduces dispersion by 7.5%. And I apologize if any of you are going to get dizzy, but this is just showing you how crazy this reticle stays right now. So 7.5% reduced dispersion. However, there's a directive in the game, and you can see that here next to the experimental turbo, that doubles the effect of Snapshot. Now, Snapshot actually scales with crew skills as well. So the premium consumable that you see, not only does it boost basically everything about the vehicle by 5%, it also boosts the efficiency of the crew skills that my crew have by about, I'm not sure exactly, but I think it's between about 5 and 10%. Accordingly, what happens with Snapshot is it goes from being 7.5% reduced dispersion to 9.53% reduced dispersion. And what's mad is the directive on this tank doubles the effect of Snapshot. And so accordingly, we can get minus 19.06% dispersion when we turn the turret because of one crew skill and because of spending 10,000 credits on a directive that will only be one use per battle. Now this stacks with the rotation device, it stacks with the mobility, the experimental mobility, and also stacks with a field mod that you can take on this tank that reduced dispersion by 5%, and another field mod progress that does 3% on top of that, which is 8. So in total, what we are achieving here is very close to minus 50% dispersion when turning the turret, while also having increased turret traverse speed. And so that's why this reticle just isn't blooming out. And so suddenly artillery goes from something that's very frustrating, that doesn't turn quick enough, that blooms out so much that you can't make reactionary shots at your opponents, and it's really hard to hit moving targets like this in the Manticore, to being something that it's a lot easier. Talk about easier, looks like that Manticore, his driving definitely isn't easy in this game, as the Manticore crashes in an ultra close game here where we're only ahead by 1,700 hit points. But now I was very worried. The Manticore finishes off the Type 5 Heavy, and that leaves the south of the map open for possibly him finishing off the STR-V103B. And if they finish off the STR-V103B, then it'll have to be a close quarters combat fight with 2 artillery. So all in all, this build is outrageous, and I almost feel that by making this video, it's going to open a few eyes as to how to improve your artillery builds. But what this also, I want this video to highlight, is just how crazy World of Tanks is with what you can do in 2024. And I genuinely think that Wargaming don't take into account all of the different micro buffs and how they stack. And there is no soft cap inside World of Tanks. For example, maybe they would make it so that once you get past 30% dispersion, that you only get a limited amount, like a drop-off, a curve downwards, which would mean that further increases didn't actually give as much to stop dispersion becoming like this. But all of these micro advantages that Wargaming give, all of these systems in place, if you can afford to play like this is going to cost me 20,000 credits per game. Or if we're being pedantic, 19,000 credits per game if I pre-purchase the snapshot directives, which you can buy in bulk and you get 10% off. And that's obviously with buying the coffee at half price when Wargaming are putting out sales. Now, if I was to use the fuel as well, it would be 29,000 credits per game, and that's all bought at half price or best sale price possible, to be able to just become a different kind of animal, you know? And how pay to win is World of Tanks within that regard? I made a video a couple of weeks ago that highlighted that you can't play tier 10 unless you have a premium account without pretty much losing tons and tons of credits for every single game that you play. Now what I'm highlighting is that if you're willing to spend 30,000 credits on top for all of the different consumables, when on my free-to-play account, for example, I never use premium consumables and I only use directives that I get for free, that some players are spending like 4,500 credits per game if they use their repair kit, their small med kit, and their fire extinguisher in a single battle. And there are some players who are literally paying 10 times as much to have, sure, not 10 times the advantage, but to have some advantages that just transcend what the class is meant to be able to achieve. And even with me not being the best of artillery players, the very first game that I made this build, I smashed an ace tanker in a batch at 155.58, finishing second on my team on experience, which is a hard thing to do in artillery, getting over 6,000 combined. And this is the same build that I played for live 8 days ago on YouTube. And if you haven't seen this artillery game, I thoroughly recommend you go and check out this artillery game. I'm not going to spoil it, but the results are pretty darn wild. And so if you're an artillery player, seriously go and consider stacking up as much dispersion as you possibly can on a vehicle like this, because once you've got minus 50% turret traverse dispersion, you can do some really wild things. And also, I really hope that everyone sees this and realizes that all of these different systems that Wargaming keep putting in to try and force you to keep playing the game, to keep grinding their game modes, to be able to get all of these advantages that they keep sweeping under the carpet and say, oh, it's not a big deal that we're giving everybody experimental equipment. Oh, it's not big a deal that we're putting bond equipment in the game. That all it takes is getting these pieces of equipment on your vehicle and these micro advantages stack up. And once there are systems in the game like this, there's nothing that you can do to take them away from that one player who, for example, loves to play their batch out 15558 a little bit too much. And for me, I've always got the excuse that I'm mostly eating sandwiches while I'm streaming, while I'm playing artillery. This is going to make those sandwiches a little bit easier and more enjoyable, at least. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was me breaking artillery in World of Tanks. I really hope you enjoyed this video, or maybe it was just eye-opening for you. If it was, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And for all of those artillery players out there, let me know if I'm missing anything, or have you done this, and what are your results with a build like this? And if you're watching this video as it goes live on Friday, I'm going live all day on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby with brand new drop tokens, so you can come and get yourself some fat styles and other gorgeous goodies inside the game. So really looking forward to seeing you all live right now. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.